All right, so today we were glitching out, and I know nobody could hear me online, so I'm going to give the presentation. It also wasn't recording. So, same spiel I gave the in-person students. All tests are open note. So, if you don't want to, that is your life choice. Your test scores will show that. Because I'm assuming that you have notes when we take any tests or quizzes, and that's how I will write my tests and quizzes. So take notes, and because I don't have anyone in front of me to judge my speed, I'm going to go through this relatively fast, so you might have to pause at certain slides to actually write down what is on them. So basically what we're talking about today is an introduction to animal anatomy. Starting off, why do we care? Well, first of all, understanding the anatomy of animals helps promote the well-being of the animal. Like, different species have different environmental requirements, and if we understand the anatomy, we'll be able to better understand what those requirements are. It'll also help us properly house animals. You aren't going to house your dog the same way you would house a llama. Also, it'll help you care for animals according to their age group. A puppy does not require the same care as a senior dog, just like a baby doesn't require the same care as a 95-year-old human. So pause if you need to write these down. Speaking on why we care, animal productivity is based on animal capacity. So as I asked the class, what does productivity mean? If a teacher asks you, are you being productive right now? What's usually your answer? Your answer is usually no, because if they're asking if you're being productive, it's usually because you aren't being productive. So productivity is the creation of a product. In the case of if a teacher's asking you if you are being productive, it is the creation of your assignments. In the case of an animal, it might be the production of milk and is based on animal capacity. So certain animals can better produce certain products. For example, meat animals need more in specific places, so we'll breed that into them. Certain cuts of meat are worth more than other cuts of meat. Ground beef is not worth as much as a wow, and now I just blanked on every other cut of meat. Ground beef is not worth as a ribeye. Ribeye is more valuable meat, so we try to breed beef steers to have more meat in that area. Dairy animals need to produce a lot of milk. And not only is it a lot of milk, different dairy animals produce types of milk, and you get paid differently for it. So there isn't, like, milk doesn't just come from cows. It comes from goats. I found out recently that camels actually produce a lot of milk. And that, well, I knew they were mammals, so they produce milk. But in Texas, camel milk is a big industry. But even if we just focus on cows, there's a lot of different breeds of dairy cattle. And two that are easy examples are Holstein and Jersey. A Holstein cow, she's going to produce a lot of milk, but it's going to have a low fat content. A Jersey is going to produce less milk than a Holstein, but it's going to have a higher fat content. So per gallon or per pound, the Jersey cow is going to get more money for their milk, but a Holstein's going to produce more of it. So where's the balance of who's getting paid more? The Jersey cow gets paid more per pound, but the Holstein gets more milk. And that's something that you have to be aware of when you are breeding cattle and when you're choosing which type of dairy cows you want in your herd. Anatomy versus physiology. So anatomy is the study of the form, shape, and appearance of an animal. If you are labeling the parts, if you are just identifying parts of an animal, that is anatomy. Anatomy is appearance. And there are two types of anatomy. I'm talking way too fast. I apologize. There are two types of anatomy: gross anatomy and microscopic anatomy. We know the word microscopic means tiny. Gross means big. So gross anatomy would be talking about like the entire stomach or labeling the parts of the digestive system. Microscopic anatomy, we're talking tiny, like cellular level tiny, something you'd need a microscope to see. The physiology is the study of the function of the cells, tissues, organs, and organ systems. Physiology, function. So where anatomy, you're studying the parts of the stomach, or parts of the digestive system, the stomach is a part of it. Physiology is what each part does. So what does the stomach do to aid digestion? That is the physiology. The anatomy is just the parts and the appearance. Physiology is the function. What is an animal? Oh, I should have grabbed it. Just a sec. We can all probably agree that this is not an animal. This is a plant, and plants are not animals. So what is the difference between a plant and an animal? Well, first of all, animals are in the kingdom Animalia. Plants are in the kingdom Plantae. Kingdom Animalia is animals. But what does that mean? Why did we classify it that way? Well, I'll tell you. It goes down to the cellular level. At the cellular level, animals are eukaryotes. That nucleus. This is also a eukaryote. It also has nucleus. They also don't have a cell wall. Plants do have cell walls. Fungus also has cell walls. But animals do not have cell walls. And they are multicellular. Once again, plants are multicellular. They're eukaryotes. A mushroom, which is a type of fungus, is multicellular. It has a cell wall. It has a cell wall. Sorry. It's multicellular. It's a eukaryote, but it has a cell wall. Plants have a cell wall. Since they have a cell wall, they're not an animal. So, animals have a nucleus, they don't have a cell wall, and they're multicellular. You don't have to write this down. I recognize that in other classes you learn all the parts of the cell, so we're not going to dive into that. But this is what an animal cell would look like. It has a nucleus. It does not have a cell wall. Those are the two most important things that I want you to know about the cell. So what is an animal? Continued. It's from the kingdom Animalia. We'll continue. But above the cellular level, animals also have a nervous system and they have a digestive system. So they have to eat. A plant does not have to eat. It gets its nutrients from photosynthesis. But an animal does have to eat. Also has a nervous system, so it has control over its hormones and that sort of thing. More conscious control from what we understand. Plants don't have conscious control over what they do. I think that is where we ended our class today. As I said, I went through that really, really, really fast. I hope you pause to write things down because all the information I gave was the same. I just gave it faster because in class I gave them time to write it down. Remember, all quizzes are open note. So have notes so that you can, use them on your quiz. Have a super fabulous day and enjoy the nice weather.